little bit of a Greek, well, a language tutor here just a little bit. I've erased some of them with my back already. But every word in Greek and Hebrew is declined or conjugated. Declined or conjugated. Dakota, what is declined and conjugated? Do you know? Marilyn, declined and conjugated.
What you mean in Hebrew?
Hebrew or Greek. Any language. Declined and conjugated. Mom, declined and conjugated. Joe, declined and conjugated.
Conjugated comes from another word.
See, I think
Conjugated, it comes
iorum in Latin. You knew some Latin. And in Greek. Okay, when you decline something and when you deconjugate, you decline nouns and you conjugate verbs. Okay? The verbs, this is the present indicative active verb. O, say O, ace, a, omen, eddy, usi, aim. That's it. Ago, agace, agay, agomen, agedi, agusi, agay. All right? Now that's conjugated. You conjugate verbs and you decline nouns. Okay? Every Greek word is inflected. Inflected. Dakota. Little boy, Spanish. Little boy, Spanish. Little boy, mom.
Niño.
What?
Niño.
What is it?
Niño.
Niño, little girl.
Nina?
Hija, you mean hija, hijo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hija is girl and hijo is boy.
Okay, that's it. Now in Greek, everything is conjugated completely. You have 8 cases: nominative, genitive, operative, locative, instrumental, dative, accusative, vocative, singular, and plural. Every noun. All right? Every noun. There are 3 declensions of nouns in Greek. This is a giant language. Other languages are a little minuscule compared to Greek. Okay? That's why when we translate a Bible verse, we know what it says. We know what it says. It tells you every part. Every they, the is there. Every they is conjugated. Everything. Now, os, on a is what it is in nominative, singular, masculine. All right? Is that? I know it's a lot. But there's 8 different ways. All right? Okay, there it is in Greek. Nominative, genitive, operative, locative, instrumental, dative, accusative, and vocative. 8 cases. Okay, in Greek. These are the nouns. Now, these are the verbs. Every verb is conjugated. And you know person, number, gender, and case, what every noun is. And you know person and tense and mode of every verb in Greek. So there are no discrepancies. God looked at a beautiful language when He used Greek. In the Hebrew Old Testament, Hebrew is a language of action. Okay, it's a language of action. So we see the action. And guess what happened in the Old Testament? What kind of action do we see in the Old Testament? What kind of action? Barashith bara. Elohim, et hashemayim we et haaretz. What did I just say? In beginnings, created to perfection, finished the heavens and the earth. Et hashemayim we et haaretz. The heavens and the earth. All right? So we see that it finished. And there was action in creation, wasn't there? Genesis 1:1. Everything that you see in the Old Testament is creation. God is building and creating things. And so, why did God use Hebrew to talk about creation? Because it's extremely important. Now in the New Testament, If you wanted a language that didn't have any loopholes in it, Greek would be the language, because the New Testament is a book of doctrines. So you need to know what those doctrines say, don't you? And you need to be definite about the doctrines. All right. Now, look, we're conjugating and declining. All right? Declining nouns and conjugating verbs. O, ase, omen, usi, aim. That's present indicative active. That's how you conjugate the verbs. All right? Can you say that now? O, ace, a, omen, edi, usi, aim. That's present indicative active. Now you got it. That's the only one you can read and conjugate all of it, but pretty soon you look at it and you know. All right, 1 John 5 and 3. We're almost finished with the... Yes, Brother Bill.
Before we get started on here, Jim, one little deal I want you to highlight for me real quick that you said the Sunday before, last Sunday. You said everything that when they talk about God, it's subjective in the Bible? Or was it Jesus? You said it's subjective? What I took that to mean was that
when it talks about, when God talks about man either coming to him or rejecting him, it's in the subjunctive mode.
That's what I wanted you to...
That's a mode of doubtful affirmation. It is a mode that either can go one way or the other.
It's a choice, is what
it's a choice.
Yeah.
That's volition.
Okay, that's what
Greek.
I thought.
Every time when it talks about either following God or standing against God, it's in the subjunctive mode. And we will see it probably tonight. It's almost in every verse. Now, if we were supralapsarians, what is a supralapsarian? Supralapsarian. What is a supralapsarian?
Something to do with Calvinism.
That's what we call a hyper-Calvinist. A supralapsarian is a hyper-Calvinist. That's an extremist. And then we got hyper-Arminians on the other side. All right? Hyper-Arminians and hyper-Calvinists. On both of those sides, those are both real wrong. Okay? Both real wrong. If you were a supralapsarian, Greek would give you a real hard trouble. You don't want to study Greek because you wouldn't want to see any subjunctive modes. It would all be in the indicative mode if that theology is correct. Because no one would have a decision to make with it. Would they? You're either dyed in the wool saved or dyed in the wool lost, and there's nothing you can do about it, according to supralapsarianism. Okay? So there would be no subjunctive mode. There would be no maybe whether you would follow God or maybe be saved. It would be indicative. I wish they knew that. It wouldn't do any good anyway. They're going to believe what they want to believe. All right. The true test of Christianity. Do you want to keep God's commandments in the subjunctive mode again? Subjunctive mode. Say subjunctive mode. The mode of doubtful affirmation. Indicative mode. The mode of a statement of fact. All right? Subjunctive mode, that may or may not be indicative mode. It's set fact. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. Whosoever may believe in Him may have everlasting. I think subjunctive mode. Indicative mode. God did it. Subjunctive mode, man may or may not do it. Isn't that beautiful now? Now, when you really start to see and understand, if you really believe correctly, theologically correctly, you are not going to go crossways with the Bible. All right? 1 John. 1 John proves that Jesus Christ is flesh. What we're going to study tonight, I believe, I've studied so far ahead, I don't know where we are. I shoot 10 or 15 verses ahead of you all the time. But I believe in this verse tonight, we're going to see John fighting against different groups of Cerinthians and the Doetic Gnostics. And those both did not, well, what they are is modern-day Jehovah's Witnesses. If you're a modern-day Jehovah's Witness, you better get rid of John's Gospel and 1st and 2nd and 3rd John and the Book of Revelation completely. And when you're doing that, just cut Colossians out of your Bible, too. You just got to get rid of them. That's just absolutely necessity. The reason for the writing of the Gospel of John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, is to prove that God did become flesh. Simple as that. I had some hate mail in the mail the other day. Came all the way from North Carolina. Well, witness stuff. Trying to tell me how wrong I was. If that man would have listened to one 1 John class, he would not have a leg to stand on. Period. Got to do away with it. Jesus, according to them, was not a person. Not the person of God. John says he is. Simple as that.
Did you respond?
What? No, I'm not going to respond. It's not going to do me any good or not. I've responded with a website cost me about $500 a month.
Yeah.
2 of them. That's all I'm going to invest in him.
By not responding, you're stating something.
I've got, how many hundreds of sermons are there on there, Randall?
There's over 200.
Well, there's over 200 on sermon audio.
Yeah.
And probably 500 on the other one. Now, that's plenty. I mean, I've given it to him. If he's not going to respond to that, then forget it. I mean, now it's in his ballpark.
That's right.
It's already in his ballpark. He just doesn't like me having the website.
Sounds like you already made a decision.
Yeah, he's already has made the decision. When you witness to them, sometimes they listen. Sometimes they don't. I've got people in my classes that listen. Some of them listen. Some of them, they begin to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the devil blinds people's eyes. Mm-hmm. And he really is busy. The power of false religion is demonic. Alte, Gar, Estin, Pei, Agape, Tu, Theou, Hina, Tas, Intelos, Autu, Teromen, Kai, Hai, Intele, Autu, Baree, Ook es Asen. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, Ook and Asen. All right. I have written mine up so much I couldn't see it down there. I thought it was going over into the next page. Now, the cross-reference is this. There's a lot of cross-references to this verse. 1 John 2 and 3, 4 and verse 9, and 4 and 12, John 14 and verse 15, 1 John, well, I don't know what, I haven't got it all written down there. I started to write something and didn't finish it. John 17 and verse 3, and John 4 and 9, and John 4 and 12, Matthew 11:30, Matthew 23 and verse 4, Matthew 28, 18 through 20, and Acts the 1st chapter, Acts 20 and verse 29, 2 Corinthians 10 and 10, and Acts 25 and verse 7, and Acts 20 and 29. These are all cross-references to this verse, so this verse does not stand alone in the Bible. Somebody could say, like some Jehovah's Witness could say, well, I don't believe it says that. Well, you know what? John is not saying something that's totally different from the rest of the Bible. God really did become flesh to die for us. Okay? It says, Alte this. Alte actually describes, if you want to draw a little line, Alte goes all the way over there to the love. Okay? It goes all the way over there. Alte, He, Agape, those are all related. Okay? Alte is what we call a little demonstrative pronoun. This. Okay? And it is nominative singular feminine. If you want to write that down there, right down below it, nominative singular feminine, or NSF, if you'll see it in yours. Nominative singular and feminine. And then we have a little conjunction or casual particle, that's gar. Actually, the way this verse would actually start out, because it flops around in English, in Greek, it's different. For this, it is the love. Or this, she is the love. All right? For this, she is the love of the God. Hina, tas, intelos. The love of the God, belonging to God and coming from God, possessed by God, in order that, or because the commandments, because Hina, the commandments of Him, belonging to Him, we, now look at this, Brother Bill, teromen down there. See that word teromen? That's in the middle of the page, third line down, right in the middle of the page. We may keep. Why is it in the subjunctive mode?
Our choice.
Hmm?
Our choice.
It's our choice. We may keep. All right, we can do it. If you're saved, you will want to do that. Now, I'm not getting over there in your old pastor's ground here, Brother Bill, but saved people act like saved people. You're saved forever. But saved people have a certain indications of being saved. They act like saved people. We can act like lost people at a time, for a time, but God is not going to let us stay there. He's going to whip us back in line. If you're His, you will act like you're His. If you're a child of God, you will act like you're His child. You will smell like Him, look like Him, and
Think like Him.
think like Him. Back in the Old Testament days, men didn't trust women very much back then. If a man thought his wife was unfaithful to him, he could have her killed. He could cut her own throat if he wanted to. That'd be fine. Women were supposed to be faithful to their husbands. But there's something about women always in time that men don't trust.
Festering sore.
Huh?
A festering sore.
You're lucky she ain't here.
You better be
Better
glad.
watch yourself.
Brother Bill, there's a guy over there, John in Australia. He wrote that letter the other day, and I don't know whether all of you were here when I read that letter, but he says it sounds like Bill really loves his ex-wife. Surely she's still not married to him.
He doesn't know I couldn't get up nowhere without that woman. But if I don't give her a hard time, she ain't going to like
He
me.
apologized to you, Bill.
Oh,
He did. He apologized. He said, "I'm sorry. I didn't think to do that." But Brother Bill, he thought that you weren't married to the way
Oh,
you
as much
talk.
as I'm out
He said,
off,
a lot of people at work, they talk like that about their ex-wives. We may keep. We may guard. All right? First person plural, present, subjunctive, active. All right? Now, it can be indicative here, but we know it's in the subjunctive. All right? And the commandments, the intellect, the commandments. Now, that's nominative plural. All right? Nominative plural, these commandments are. Commandments are charges. There are edicts. There are rules. God never gives man a rule. When God told Adam and Eve in the garden, anything you want to go out there, but stay away from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He didn't want to keep anything from them. What do you think that tree had on it there, Dakota? What do you think that tree had on it? The tree of knowledge of good and evil. How about you, Marilyn?
Pomegranate.
How about you, Joe? You got any ideas? Huh?
Apples.
Apples? Well, I don't know what it had on it. I don't know what it was. Some people say it was the tomato. But whatever that tree had on it, that it had in it the knowledge of good and evil. Now, they could have touched, they could have eaten everything else in that garden, and it wouldn't bother them. Do you think that tree was good for them, Brother Bear?
Forbidden.
The devil said, "Well, look at it. It's pretty. It's shiny." Girls like shiny things, don't they? Yeah, they do. Boys do too. Shiny cars, shiny boats, shiny guns, shiny motorcycles. All of these shiny things. Girls like shiny jewels and diamonds and things like that. But it looks good. It's pretty. It's going to taste real good. It's good to eat. And what else? It's going to make you real smart. So, the devil suckered the woman. He deceived her. But what about the man? Do you think Adam was deceived?
Sure.
He wasn't deceived. Not at all. He wasn't deceived.
He made a choice.
He did it. And he did it with his eyes wide open and in total rebellion against God. That's why God holds us accountable to it and not the woman. She was deceived, but we weren't. We were bad boys.
I never thought of it that way.
The woman does not give the sin nature to the child. It is the man that gives sin nature to the child, because man was responsible. This is the love of God, because the commandments of Him we may keep. We can do this if we're children of God. And the commandments of Him, baree. Baree. That word is, that means grievous. It means burdensome, heavy. And then it says not, adverb of negation, notly. Actively not, they are. They are not heavy. When you're a child of God, God's commandments are not heavy any longer. We were talking just a little bit earlier, Brother Randall and I did. We live in a godless nation. We live in a godless nation. This is one of the most godless nations in the world. You can go to any Islamic nation in the world, and they've got a God. And He's the center of their nation. You can go you can go over there in those Buddhist nations. Go over there to the Dalai Lama, and they got a God. But America, we don't have God on our money. We don't have God in our schools. We have divorced God completely. We don't have anything to do with God. He's gone. He's 86th out of our nation. That's a sad situation. Some people ask me, what part will America play in the end times? I'm not too sure she's going to be here. I think she's 86th herself out of God's plan.
I agree with you.
Maybe she has. Maybe we can do something for the Lord. I don't know. But politically, we have got rid of it. Run Him off. Run Him out of our lives. Now, our struggle that we have in life is continual and it's long. But even a girl can do it. First John 5 and 4. Even a girl can do it. That's right. Even a girl can do it. Let's take a look at it. All right. Hello, brother. We're in 1 John 5 and 4. All right. 1 John 5 and 4.
So
Marilyn?
this isn't Greek?
This is Greek, yes. We're in 1 John in Greek, 5 and 4. See all this Greek up here? All right, it's good to have you in class. What is your name?
My name's Alfred.
Alfred? All right, Alfred, I'm Jim. 1 John 5 and 4. There should be a book down there, Marilyn.
Well, there's mine
Marilyn, there should be a
downstairs.
book down there. Down. Down at the bottom. I think there's a stack of them down there. There might be a Greek grammar in there for him, too. Hote. Is that enough Greek for you? Hote. Pon.
Pon.
To.
To.
Gagen. Degmeno. All right. Ek. Two. Come on, guys. Diu. Nika. To. Cosmos. Kai. Alte. Eston. Hey. Nike. Hey. Nike Salsa. Tone. Cosmon. Pistis. Hemon. You see there? You got it. You guys will learn how to read it.
Well, I said over there, but this one here. What's your name?
Now we studied tonight about how to conjugate verbs and how to decline nouns. Okay? Now, this first little thing we have here is a conjunction or a casual particle. That's hote. Hote. Because. Pon, that's a little adjective there. Every. Now look at this over here, this toe. That's a neuter definite article. Are there any indefinite articles in Greek?
Well,
What? Huh?
the omission of the article is an indefinite article, providing it comes after the verb.
There really aren't any indefinite articles. There are no written indefinite articles in Greek.
There are no written
No
indefinite articles.
written indefinite articles in Greek. And even, you don't have to have a definite article in Greek to have a definite article there.
If it precedes the verb.
Yeah. It's understood. It's understood, okay? Because the one, okay, the one, what is the word one there? What is that called? We're supplying it, so what do we call it? The one. That's a practical substantive. It stands there because we know it's there. It's understood. All right? Because every the one having been begotten. Now look at this. Every the one having been begotten. And it is actually the thing having been begotten. And it's nominative, or actually accusative, singular, neuter, perfect participle, passive voice. The one having been begotten. All right? What's passive voice? What kind of action does that show? What kind of action does passive voice show? Come on, guys, girl. That means someone's being acted upon from the outside. Okay? Middle voice, you're doing it for yourself. And direct, middle, whatever. Now we have the passive. Perfect tense. What is that? Perfect tense. That's completed action. Absolutely completed. And then what about a participle? What is a participle? That's one of them continuing, bouncing things. All right? That's where we put a little gerund, like English gerund there, having been begotten, having been birthed. All right? Having been generated. The word Genesis comes from this word, Genesis. The book, the Old Testament book of Genesis. The book of Genesis means what?
Beginning.
Beginnings. Plural. It's a book of beginnings. Barashit. Beginnings. And the term Genesis for the book of Genesis is actually from Greek, not from Hebrew, because it was named or from the Septuagint instead of the Hebrew. All right? By the way, if you want to look up that word genao, you can look that one up on page 79 in the Analytic Lexicon. Okay? You can go look that one up. Having been birthed or having been begotten or having been brought into existence. Okay? Remember we talked about the Greek New Testament is totally a definite language. Absolutely definite language. Because it's so doctrinally important. The Old Testament is a language, the Hebrew is a language of action because the creation is so important. All right? Because every the one having been begotten out of the God. Preposition. All right? Little old preposition ek. That sign up there, exit. That's the same thing. That's where it came from, is this Greek. Ek to theou. Ablative singular masculine. You've been begotten, you've been birthed out of God. All right? He is your Father. He is your Father. Birthed out of God. We talked about in creation, God created the woman from what? Man. When He created man, where did He create him from?
Dust.
Elements, the same elements.
The same elements as the dust. Not from dust, but from the same elements. Man was a primary creation, God not secondary. But woman, where did woman come from?
That's right.
From man. What does woman mean? What does Isha mean? Out of man. That's where she came out of. All right? When God created woman, He created her out of man. He brought her out of man. He put them back together in a marriage accord. And every child that's ever been born into this world comes from a woman. Even the Messiah child. Where does sin come from in the human race? Man. Because man knowingly rebelled against God. The woman was the seed. The woman does not pass the sin element on to the child, but the man does. As in Adam, all die. In the book of Enoch, it talks about the seed of the woman. All right, the seed of the woman. The Messiah would come. Genesis 3:15 talks about the seed of the woman. All right? That's how God the Son could be brought into this world without sin and yet have flesh and bone. And that's what 1 John is about. It tells us how God became flesh. John's writings in the Gospel according to John tells us that God became flesh. What verse is that? Kahologo sarx again, it says. John 1:14. And the Word, flesh, He became. The word, we know, is the term for God in the Old Testament. The Aramaic translation of the Old Testament, who was walking in the garden with Adam? The Word. The Word walked with God in the Adam. Who created man? The Word. All right, the Word. All right. Out of the God we're begotten. We're begotten out of God. Just like God, man came from God, man fell. He fell. Knowingly, he rebelled against God. But God bought him back. All right? God bought him back. Out of the God, ectu theou. And then it says here, third person singular, present, indicative, active, from not kao, nikah. The one having been begotten out of God, he overcomes. The word, the Nike shoes that people have, you know, that comes right out of Greek. Conquering shoes. All right, conquering shoes. All right, conquering shoes. He overcomes ton the cosmos, accusative singular masculine. He overcomes the cosmos. All right. What cosmos is it talking about here?
The world order.
The world order. Out the world order. That which is contrary to God. Ephesians, the first chapter. Ephesians, the second chapter. John 3:16 is very beautiful. We don't look at that enough. For God so loved what? The world. When Adam sinned, he lost the material creation of God. He forfeited. The Lord Jesus Christ brought it back. He not only died, and this is beautiful now, He died for you spiritually. He died for your souls. But also He died to put you back together again. And not only did He die to resurrection, anastasia, but He died for the whole world system, to buy it all back. Because God was related to it, wasn't He? To buy it back, He had to be related to it. So therefore, He was related to it. He became part of it in space and time. Sunday morning, we talked, I think it was Sunday morning, Sunday night, one of those classes I teach. Some of you have been here more than one class. You look back in time. How long ago did Jesus Christ stand as a lamb slain? How long did He stand as a lamb slain? From before the foundation of the world. He stood as a lamb slain. All of these people back here, they look toward the promise, Genesis 3:15, of the Messiah. Okay? HaMashiach. All right? Look forward for the Messiah. Not a Messiah, but the Messiah. Okay? They look forward to the Messiah. But in space and time, He was just a promise. Until the Messiah came into the world. Until He died on the cross of Calvary. And that's what 1 John is talking about, that God really became flesh. That He really lived among us. There were two groups of people back then that John is in 1 John, he's really, and he calls them Antichrist. And they were Gnostics. And they didn't believe in the literal incarnation of Christ, of God. And they did not believe in the literal resurrection of Christ, that He was raised as Spirit. Already? Let's not do it yet. It's clicking. All right. One of these things don't go off over here. You've got to listen for it to click. The Cerinthian and Doic. Two groups of Gnostics. And that's what this book was written against. And there was one of them that he went into a bath where he was, and he wouldn't even go in there. He didn't want to get any of that stuff rubbed off on him. let's go on a little bit further. Out of the God, and then he overcomes, he conquers the world. And this, it is the victory. This is the victory, the one having overcome the world. All right? The faith of us. Now, in John 16 and verse 33, I believe it was, someone turn to John 16, 33. John 16, 33. John 1:13, John 3:3, John 1:19, 1 John 2:29, 1 John 5 and 1, 5:18, 2:13, 4 and 4. This verse does not stand alone. These are all verses that cross-reference to this verse. All right. Are you there, John 16:33?
Yeah.
Or can you read that for me? What's your name again?
My name's Alfred.
Alfred. Go ahead, Alfred.
These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you shall have affliction, but be cheerful, I have conquered the world.
I have overcome, I have conquered the world. Now, Jesus conquered the world. He came here. Why did he do this? We have the first Adam in the garden. He was in a paradiso. He was in a paradise. The second Adam, the God from heaven, where was he tested? Where was he tested?
In the wilderness.
In the wilderness. All right? Adam had plenty to eat, but he chose the wrong thing to eat. Jesus didn't have anything to eat but rocks out there. But he chose the right thing. He has overcome the world. All right? 1 John 4 and 4. Go to 1 John 4 and 4. Are you over there, brother? 1 John 4 and 4, yes.
You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world.
All right, that's beautiful. We have overcome the world too, because Christ is in us. We so much. We talk about the little triune chart of man, your body, mind, and soul. Little triune chart, spirit, and we have soul here, and we have body. Now, when we're born into this world, we're born with the spirit of rebellion in us. That's what seals us to death. Period. That's it. We're sealed. We're doomed. We have the sentence of death in us. All right? But when we're born again, God's Spirit comes in us and seals us to the resurrection. God doesn't make any provision to make this body live forever. But He will resuscitate it. He will make it stand again. And resurrect it. And reform it. And make it stand again. I'll stop you. 5 and 5. Tis, Day, Estet, Hol, Nikon, Ton, Cosmon, A, May, Hol, Pistion, Hote, Asus, Eston, Hol, Huios, Ton, Theou, Theo,
Oh,
Two Theou.
Because it's two words, not one.
Now it's got a little brackets there. See a big bracket? What does that bracket mean?
Of.
What?
Death. Of. Or from.
What's the brackets mean?
Oh, it's not in the original.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not there, but it's probably understood to be there regardless. You don't have to have it there anyway. But it's probably, when it's in brackets like that, it's probably not there. All right, well, we have a little indefinite interrogative pronoun down here, these tis. And, or moreover, who is the one, who he is, third person singular, present, indicative, active, from Amy. The one, the whole, Nikon, the one conquering. The there is a nominative singular masculine, definite article. Whole, ariston, arthron, all right, the definite article.
Do you have an analytical there in front of you, or did you memorize all it? Whoa, very good.
I've been doing this for a long time.
So.
You want to tell you what page it's on? That day is on page 85, okay? In that analytical lexicon. All right. The one conquering. All right. Nominative, singular, masculine, present, participle, and active. That comes from nikao. That one's on page 277 if you want to look it up. All right. Luke 11 and 22, John 16:33, Revelation 5 and 5, 1 John 4:15, 1 John 5 and 1, Hebrews 11 and 1, Matthew 18 and verse 6, John 3:15, onward, Daniel 7:13 and 14. That's all what this is talking about here. And who is the one conquering the world? Except the one believing. All right. What's that? That a may there. A may. That's a little kind of a two words made into one thing. All right. First class conditional. What is that? First class conditional. Who can spout off the rule to that? Huh? Condition determined as fulfilled. All right, so conditional, first class conditional. Condition determined as fulfilled. In other words, it's true. It's a fact.
Right.
Since. All right. Now, the one that's conquering the world, you can put here unless, or actually it's indicative that the only one that's going to conquer the world is those that are in Christ. Period. And Christ is in them. That's the only one that's going to overcome the world. The one believing. All right, pistuo. Whole, pistuo, the one believing. Nominative, singular, masculine, present, participle, and active. All right? The one believing. That's the subject, nominative, singular, and it's masculine, present tense. It's participle, that's one of them continuum things. All right? And it's active voice. Then we have a little conjunction or capital particle, hote. All right, if you want to put that one down, that one's on page 294. And then Jesus. Jesus. Does Jesus. All right. Yahshua. What's Jesus mean?
He who shall become.
He who shall be born. No, that's Jehovah.
Jehovah saves.
All right, Jehovah saves.
Yes.
All right, Yahshua. Jesus and Yahshua are the same, or Joshua are the same word. The King James didn't quite have all their marbles in one bag or something. The Old Testament and the New Testament translations were really messed up. It should have been Joshua in the New Testament. It wasn't Elias, but Elijah. And all of these terms that they got confused. Different translators working on different things. But Joshua. All right, Joshua. Now, was Joshua a type of Christ?
Oh, yeah.
He was. He was a type of Christ. Where did he lead Israel?
The battle against Jericho.
All right, into the promised land. He led them into the promised land. By the way, he was the only one. There was only two of them. By the way, what piece of ground did he want? What piece of ground did Joshua and Caleb want? Go back and think.
Before they crossed over.
Well, no. When they went in there, remember, years before this, they went in there and they looked at the promised land, and they brought a report back to them, and all of them said they went up there and they said, "Boy, they are giants, and we are grasshoppers in their sight."
Wasn't that the 10?
What?
Wasn't that the 10 that came back with the fearful report?
Yeah, they came with a fearful report.
Joshua and Caleb said, "The land's ours. Let's go take it."
Yeah. And you know what the giants were?
That's the part that Caleb wanted. He wanted the biggest challenge.
He said, "Let me out."
Yep.
And when they went in there, when they were old, they whooped the giants. Where were the giants? Where were they?
I don't remember the name of the valley. I don't remember.
Where were the giants? Hebron.
Huh?
Where's the cave of Mephibosheth?
Hebron.
Where were their dead buried?
Machpelah.
Yeah, Mephibosheth. The cave of Mephibosheth. All right, that's in Hebron. That's beautiful. By the way, I've been there. That's pretty neat. That's a pretty neat place. When you walk in there where all of these patriarchs were buried, and you walk on that side and you walk into that ground. They wanted that. That's where they wanted to go. They challenged the giants. All right?
Can I add throw in one
Yes.
comment before we move on?
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that after they crossed the Jordan, before they went in to conquer the land, there was one incident where the people magnified Joshua. And that's one of the ways he's a parallel of Jesus. Because the Jews will not really enter into the promised rest until they magnify another Yeshua.
The one conquering the world, except the one believing. Pistuon, believing. The one believing. Because Jesus, He is the Son of the God. What is that word? Huios. What does that mean? What are the terms for child and son and all this? Let's name them off. Come on.
Pavion, Techno,
All right.
Huios.
What's Napios? Napios.
Newborn.
Oh, little newborn, yeah, little infant.
Speechless baby.
Right.
Techno.
Small
Infant
child,
father.
toddler, on.
What does it literally mean? Techno.
Child.
What? A live birth. Live birth. Thank you. We're getting it. A live birth. Paidion. Paidion.
Toddler.
Spanking child.
Toddler.
And toddlers you got to
And
spank.
teenager. I'm kidding.
The terrible 2s and 3s, you know. That's what they are. The ones, the trip gate, the spanking up children, all right? The ones you correct, the correcting children. All right, now wheels. What is wheels?
Son.
The inheritance.
The heir.
The heir.
Oh, really?
That's the heir.
So it refers to the heir? It doesn't just refer
That's
to a
the
male
heir.
child?
That's the heir.
What,
Heir.
What's the term for a non-heir male child?
There's only one heir. The firstborn. That's the only heir. The firstborn is the heir. In the Old Testament, we have Abel and we have Cain. Who was the firstborn?
Cain.
Was Abel ever any threat to Cain?
No.
He wasn't there. Cain was the heir. Cain was always the heir until he forfeited his sonship. How did he do that? Thank you. I heard that one. How did he forfeit that heirship?
Murdering his brother.
By murder. Yeah. Then he lost it. He was never any threat until he killed his brother. His brother was never any threat to him at all, period. And then he got substituted by substitute. What was his name?
Seth.
Substitute? Zeth. Zeth means substitute. He was substituted. Zeth. All right. He was substituted. And also remember this. We'll go back and we chase rabbits every now and then. What was the two problems that Cain had when he brought his offering to God? There's two problems.
Greed and jealousy to me.
Huh?
Greed and jealousy to me.
Well, greed. There was greed because he wouldn't pay the tithe. Boy, that's a big thing. He didn't divide correctly. That's what the term is. He didn't cut directly. He didn't divide correctly. He didn't tithe. He was too tight to tithe. That's number one. But what was even greater than that?
Brought the works of his own hands.
He brought a cursed offering from a cursed ground.
Cursed be the ground. Oh.
He brought a cursed offering from a cursed ground. What?
Just said that in my ear. I was lying.
He brought a cursed offering from a cursed ground. So he didn't tithe, for one thing. He didn't divide correctly. That's what he said. You didn't divide correctly. God told him, if you divide correctly, won't everything be all right? But he didn't want to. And he didn't want to bring the right offering. God told him what kind of offering he could bring. Something innocent had to die for something guilty. All right? Not the works of his hands. Not the works from a cursed ground. And he kind of insulted God when he brought the works to the ground. What was the curse? What was the curse? Look at the curse in the Old Testament. When Adam sinned, what did God tell him? By the sweat of your nostrils. That's nostrils is what it really means.
Really?
Sweat of your nostrils. By the sweat of your nostrils you shall eat bread the rest of your days, or all your days. When you bend over, when you're working hard, and you're out hoeing, and I guarantee you, the weeds grow a lot faster than crops do. And you're bending over working, where's the sweat run? Right off the end of your nose. And that's what it says in Hebrew. Right off the end of your nose. Okay? Right off the end of your nose. The ground was cursed because Adam sinned. And it had thorns and thistles and weeds, which it didn't have before. But Cain says, see, even with a curse, look what I can do. And when God sent him out and he went to the land of wandering, Nod, that means wandering, okay, what did he invent over there? His lineage. To overcome the curse.
Oh gosh, metallurgy, music, all this. None of his children were in agriculture. Slavery. Really?
Slavery. How do you overcome the curse? You get slaves to do your work for you.
I was going to say salespeople.
They talk, they don't work.
Can I ask where you extrapolated that from?
Do what?
Can I ask where
That's the history of that. That's what they were doing back then. You go all back and you study the whole lineage of them, and that's what they did. That's where slavery was invented, right back there. And if you go to the Tower of Babel, how did the Tower of Babel get built?
Slavery.
Slavery. The Egyptian pyramids. South America. Slavery.
The cathedrals of Europe.
Yeah.
United States.
Let's go.
I got the elaborate plantations in the South Shore.
Yeah. And the sweatshops.
Yep.
All right. 11 and verse 1, we got to look at that before we go. The one believing. That word means to trust. That means, that's a guaranteed conviction, by the way, that believing. That's a guaranteed conviction. Right? The one believing. Hebrews 11 and verse 1. Who is there? Hebrews 11 and verse 1. And we're going to do the book of Hebrews here. When we finish 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, we're going to go to Hebrews, and we're going to delve into that pond.
Now, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see.
All right. Read that one more time.
Now, faith is being sure of what we hope for.
Sure of what we hope for. That's believing, people, when you're sure. If you're not sure, you're not believing.
Right.
As simple as that. You're not sure, you're not believing. Period. If you're not sure, you're not believing. Go ahead and read it one more time, because this is a beautiful verse. We ought to put this indelibly in our hearts and our minds.
Now, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see.
That's right. Certain of what we don't see. It's really there. This hour's gone.
We didn't even know.
Let's look at this anyway. Hutos,
Hutos.
Eston, Ho, Elphon, Di, Hidatos, Kai, Himatos, Asus, Chrysos, Uk, En, To, Hidati, Monon, Allah, En, To, Hidati, Kai, En, To, Hamati, Kai, To, Numa, Eston, To, Maturion, Hote, Te, To, Numa, Eston, He, Alethea. All right, boy, this John is really striking out. Again, striking hard against the two groups of Gnostics. The Docetic and the Cerinthians. This verse right here is so plain to that. The witness concerning the Son, 5, 6 through verse 12. The witness concerning the Son of God, the heir of God. Only one Son, only one heir. All right? John 1:14. Well, John 1:1. Let's look at that. All right? NRK, in beginning. Aim, third person singular, perfect indicative active. What is it?
Complete.
Was.
Continued to be, forever was, kept on being. In beginning, How many beginnings are there? What is that? Locative singular feminine. All right? In our case, locative singular feminine. In the absolute beginning, nothing beyond that. In the absolute beginning, he kept on being whole logos. That word. That's the word we looked at the other morning. Remember when we went? Maybe I did in the morning. Can't remember. Anyway, I had the memra. What's memra? What's memra? The var. Memra, the var, logos. Those are all the same term. Memra is Aramaic. The var is Hebrew. And logos is Greek. Now, in beginning, kept on being the Word. Is that a Hebraism or an Aramaic? Or is that a Greek idiom?
Well, it's got to be Hebrew.
It's Hebrew. Not Greek. Why? Because John is writing to people that are Hebrews that are believing, and they're having problems. They're having problems with the person of God. So he writes, and remember we talked about the 4 different flags in the 4 directions around the tabernacle. There was 4 faces on them. Those 4 faces correspond to the 4 Gospels. All right? There was a face of a man. Remember that? On one of those flags, the face of a man. What Gospel did that correspond to?
Luke.
Yeah, Luke. The doctor. That certified that God was man. That he's really human. He really walked, he talked, he breathed. All of this. All right, the ox or the calf.
Mark.
The servant. All right. And the lion.
Matthew.
Matthew. Automathio. All right. The lion. Now.
And what is the
eagle.
lion Matthew?
The eagle. What?
The lion Matthew. What?
Those correspond. Those 4 flags correspond to the 4 Gospels. How God showed the Son of God in those 4 Gospels. The Gospel, according to John, shows Jesus as the eternal God that became flesh. In beginning, absolute extremity of time, kept on being the Creator, the Jehovah, is what it's talking about. In the Old Testament, when they came to the name of God, they would say, this is the name, or this is the word. In Aramaic, it was the memra. Of course, if you spoke in the Hebrew, which you have to realize that people that during the Bible, in the New Testament time, when Jesus was on this earth, very few people spoke Hebrew. That was a sacred language. It was set aside. Paul's family spoke Hebrew. He said he was a Hebrew of Hebrews. What he actually meant, a Hebrew of Hebrews, and that they spoke Hebrew in his home, which was very unusual. Very unusual. They spoke Aramaic, and everybody spoke Greek. All right? Now, I told you last time, when God created man, it says that in the Targum, it says, and the word of the Lord created man, or the word created man. So, the creator is the word. In beginning, kept on being the Jehovah. And Jehovah, Kahologos, all right? Ain, proston theon. And the Word, the Jehovah, kept on being an inseparable part of the Godhead. That's what it's talking about, the active proston theon, accusative singular, masculine. Kept on being, because the Word, or the God, whichever one you put it, we've got a predicate nominative there. You know what a predicate nominative is.
So I'm here to refresh.
Everything on both sides of that linking verb
there you go.
is number, gender, and case the same person. Period.
Equal sign.
All right? Because God continued to be, kept on being the Word. John 1:14, Kai hologos sarx agenito. And the Word, the Jehovah, flesh, He became. Second aorist. Indicative. middle voice. Middle voice. Middle voice. Beautiful. God brought himself out of eternity into space and time. That's what this is talking about right here. This verse is talking about this. John, someone read the rest of John 1:14 for me. And the Word fleshy became, and he pitched his tent. He pitched his tent. Why did God want the tabernacle built in the Old Testament? Because he wanted to dwell with his people, among his people. John 1:14 says he pitched his tent among us, and we beheld the glory. Are you there, Brother Jeff? John 1:14.
Do not let your hearts be troubled.
No, John 1:14.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The Gospel of John.
He's in the Gospel of John. You're in the 14th chapter, I think.
Oh.
1 John there.
Oh, okay.
Go back to,
Oh,
the Gospel according to John.
okay.
All right. Kata Iwane.
Oh, I see what I did.
Yeah.
You said chapter 1.
Uh-huh. John 1:14. Let's
Come on,
look at
Brother
the
Jeff.
He's getting nervous now.
I'll catch up with you later.
Isha.
The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us.
This is ten among us.
We have seen his glory,
We have beheld the glory of him.
the glory of the one and only,
Moses wanted to see the glory, didn't he?
who came from the Father.
Moses, well, hold on just a minute. Moses wanted to see the glory, but we beheld the glory. In the four Gospels, we behold the glory of God. All right.
The glory of the one and only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth.
All right, John 1:18 now. John 1:18. That is New American Standard, isn't it?
NIV?
Well, that's good enough.
Nearly inspired version.
No one has ever seen God,
No one has ever seen God.
but God, the one and only.
Oh, okay, that's not good enough. Brother, is that your New American Standard? Okay, that's good.
No one has seen God at any time, the only begotten God.
The only begotten God.
Who is in the
What would God beget? The huios, the air. God could only beget God. Couldn't he? He could only beget God, literally. The only begotten God,
who is in the bosom of the Father.
the one being in the bosom, inseparable from, that's the second part, the second sentence in John 1:1, all right? The one kept on, the inseparable part of Godhead, the one being in the bosom, present,
I guess the rest of it.
present participle active.
He has let himself out.
He has led himself out. It says he explained him. It has declared him. But in Greek it says he has led himself out. Little voice. Ek and ago. Ek and ago. We got ago up here. Ago, age, ageo, gomen, ageti, agusi, again. All right? He has led himself out. He led himself out of eternity into space and time for this purpose right here. The purpose of the cross. And what we're talking about here is the cross and the baptism. At baptism, this is the water it's talking about, the water and the blood. At baptism, what do we have here? We have an epiphany, we have a condensation there for human anthropomorphic explanation. We have the Son standing out there. John's baptizing. He said, "Behold, the Lamb of God, which takes away the sin of the world." All right, this is him. And then he baptizes him. And what happens when Jesus is standing there and John baptizing? What happens? The voice of God from heaven. And what else? The Holy Spirit, like a dove, not a dove, but like a dove, comes down and abodes upon him. Here's your Gnostics problem later on. They had trouble with the Gnostics with that. The eternal God came on him there, and then he left him at the cross before he died. Okay? But we have the witness of the Godhead, so to speak. There aren't three gods. We only believe in one God. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is three. What's it say there?
One.
One. All right, it's one. He's not three gods, he's one God. You'll never see any God but the Son. You'll never feel any God but the Spirit. And you'll never know any God but the Father. We are correspondent. God made us in His spiritual form, in His shadow-casting form, and His blood-flowing likeness. That's what the Hebrews said. And He breathed into Adam the breathings of lives. And where is life? Where is life? In the blood. So He breathed into him the bloods. What is the word Adam? What does it come from? What's the Hebrew word?
Red earth.
Adam. What?
Red earth.
Comes from dam. What is dam? Blood.
Is it?
When you get into that stuff, you get into some deep, you dive off into a bottomless ocean of beauty in Greek and Hebrew. The Hebrew is beautiful. The Greek is beautiful too. Beautiful. I'm going to turn you loose tonight. Go out and do something eternal this week. Thank you for being here. I guess I held you long enough.
No, it's great.
We'll come back here and look at this verse some more next week because we've got to go to John 8:23, 8:47, 10:3, 18:37, 14:17, 3:3, 1 John 4:4, and we already been to John 1:1, and John 1:14, John 1:18, 1 Corinthians 14:37, 1 Timothy 4:1, John 19:34, Galatians 5:13, and Genesis 1:1, and 1:26, which we covered a little bit.
Oh, that's not necessary. Next week I'll be
That's right.
I'll be fine.
That's what makes it so wow.
All right, there. We got jumped off in this one, in this witness that we're going to get into. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed
Oh, my
something
pleasure.
class tonight. And by the way, you can see us, well, not see us, but you can go to discovertheword.com on the internet. You can listen to hundreds of these classes.
Wow.
And I've been teaching Greek about 40 years, so there's a lot of them out there. And about 12 years here, 13, something like that. We got a lot of other classes there. I teach here on Sunday morning at 9:15 and on Sunday night at 4:30.
In this room?
In this room, in this very room. So I'm here a lot. Have any other questions before we go? Is this exciting? God's Word exciting? Did you learn a little bit about conjugation and declining a little bit tonight? I teach, we study the Bible. We learn Greek by induction. Now, Brother David's been in my Greek class for how long, Brother David?
A long time. It's about 6 years.
6 years. Oh, about 6 years. I always tell people, if you come here, you don't have to study Greek at home, but if you stay in classes for 3 years, because they don't quit to go year in, year out, and I go from one book to the other, I said in 3 years, I promise them, if you pay attention in class, you can learn Greek, and you'll learn how to read it, and you won't know how you did it. My wife proved that to me, didn't she? She was, after about 3 years, she opened up the Greek Bible. She said, I can read this! And I guarantee you she never studied at home. The only thing she studies at home is old cookbooks. But she can read Greek. You can read it by induction. You'll get exposed to it. So we studied the different books. We studied the Gospel of John. We studied the whole book of Revelation. And 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Peter, the book of James, the book of Jude. What else? Ephesians, Colossians.
Thessalonians.
We've done all of those books. Yeah. And now we're almost finished with 1 John. And then we're going to do 2nd John and 3rd John, and then we're going to do the book of Hebrews. The book of Hebrews is going to be like going to another planet.
No doubt.
I'm going to tell you something that's beautiful. Whoever that writer was knew classical and Koine really well. That's a perfect, beautiful example.
Do you think it was Paul?
No.
Because if it was, then you got 7 letters to 7 pastors and 7 letters to 7 churches.
Uh-huh.
But if it wasn't, well, you only up and up with 6.
Who knows? We will know when we get there. He did not quote the Hebrew Old Testament. He quoted the Septuagint. There is very little Hebrew quoted in the book of Hebrews, the Septuagint. But most of the Jews knew the Septuagint. Jesus quoted the Septuagint most of the time. And if you study the original language, you will see the difference in the Septuagint and the Hebrew Scriptures, especially in the New Testament, whether they're quoting from the Septuagint or whether it's quoting from Hebrew, because there's a whole lot of difference. The Septuagint was not a very good translation of the Old Testament. See, I had 6 years of Hebrew and 9 years of Greek in class, so we studied a lot of that stuff. And if I take you into Genesis 1 and 1, you students here that have been here 2 or 3 years in my class can show the mistakes that the Septuagint made very easily. But it was all according to the customs and the ideas and the theology of their day and their time. That's why they did. All right, let's get ready to go out there. Brother John, do you feel like there's misses in prayer tonight, brother? Is there too many in here for you?
No, I'll try again. Yeah.
You'll try it? All right. This brother right here had a massive stroke, and he's learned how to talk again, and he's trying to study and read Greek. And we appreciate you, brother. You are a shining star and example to all of us.
Amen. Oh, Jesus, I love you much. Let your will be what your will is. And I know that all of us here are watching our preacher here to read and teach us very much that we need to. But I know that this is late, and I know we've been sitting here and watching so good. He's a good man here. And I hope everybody here with the mamas and dads and the kids knows that it will be very nice here to watch and be close and always be healthy. And I know I don't talk too much, I don't say too much. I'm sorry very much, but sometimes I pray, and I try to say who Jesus Christ is, and I love Him much, and I always will. And when I come down here and watch what I watch in the Spirit, and I love all you people here, and hope you be home. When you go watch, when you drive your car, it's all right. Watch very close what you do. Love you this time. I say Jesus, and Jesus I say amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention and endurance of those hard seats.
Oh, very nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
We talk this
My
better
name's
every
Jeff.
week.
This is my wife, Lauren. I'm glad you came
Yeah.
to class. Hope to see you
Nice
back
to meet you
again.
too, Michael.
This,
Okay.
this class is wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's better every week. It's amazing.
Can't imagine it being much better than that.
$45.
We learned so much. We weren't sure, if we were going to be able to keep up because it was
Oh, yeah, probably $8, I think. So it'd be 53.
I'm surprised that I taught Greek at Bible college. I can't.
Okay.
I can't. It was on the fly. Decline nouns and parts of